Hey there, Ben Mankiewicz with you. Welcome to TCM, where we're closing out Sundays with Hitch. Double feature Alfred Hitchcock movies every Sunday night in October. We just had Psycho from 1960. Up next, a film every bit as intentionally uncomfortable as Psycho. From Universal Pictures in 1943, Teresa Wright and Joseph Cotten star in Shadow of a Doubt. Teresa Wright is Charlie, a bored teenager longing for some excitement in her small, idyllic Northern California town of Santa Rosa. It's a real town, 50 or so miles north, slightly inland from San Francisco. Hitchcock shot the movie there on location. Charlie is thrilled when her namesake and favorite uncle, that's Cotton, arrives for a visit. As usual, the worldly, sophisticated Uncle Charlie dazzles the family with gifts and charming stories, but we learn early on that what niece Charlie eventually begins to suspect about Uncle Charlie is correct. There is a dangerous darkness to this man. That storytelling device, cluing in the audience to more information than the characters have, was a Hitchcock favorite. Certainly didn't always do it. Didn't happen in movies like Psycho, Vertigo, or Rebecca, but he used that distinction between shock and suspense often enough. And here, the audience is practically screaming at Teresa Wright to follow her instincts about her good old Uncle Charlie. In Shadow of a Doubt, Hitchcock explored a plot point he had long considered: how evil can lurk in unexpected places, even in the wholesome setting of small town America. Born and bred in London and living a few years in Hollywood, Alfred Hitchcock was hardly an expert on small American towns. Given that, he turned to Thornton Wilder, who'd written the definitive play on the subject, Our Town, to write the screenplay for Shadow of a Doubt. Wilder, though the film's primary writer, ended up as one of several screenwriters on the project. Sally Benson, who wrote the novel Meet Me in St. Louis, and Hitchcock's wife, Alma, were also credited for their work on the script. Among the uncredited contributors, Patricia Collins, who brilliantly plays Teresa Wright's mother in the film. She's wonderful. And rather unusually, Alfred Hitchcock himself. Here's the picture from 1943, also with MacDonald Carey, Henry Travers, and Hume Cronin making his movie debut, as well as several real residents of Santa Rosa, California, including Edna Mae Wanacott, who plays Charlie's precocious little sister. This is Shadow of a Doubt. Like the first Alfred Hitchcock film we had tonight, his 1960 masterpiece Psycho, the villain in Shadow of a Doubt was also based on a real-life serial killer. Uncle Charlie, played so effectively by Joseph Cotten, was based on Earl Leonard Nelson, who murdered several women in the 1920s, was known as the Dark Strangler. A fellow Englishman named Gordon MacDonald, who was married to a story editor at Universal, pitched the idea to Hitchcock over lunch in May of 1942. He ended up earning an Oscar nomination for Best Original Story. As I mentioned before the movie, Shadow of a Doubt had three credited screenwriters: novelist Sally Benson, Hitch's wife, Alma Revel, and Our Town playwright Thornton Wilder. Wilder completed most of the script. According to Peter Ackroyd in his Hitchcock biography, Wilder wrote to his friend, the prominent critic Alexander Woollcott, about how he and Hitchcock would have long story conferences where they'd think up new twists to the plot and then gaze at each other in appalled silence as if to say, "Do you think an audience can bear that?" It wasn't until Wilder was called away to train with U.S. Army Air Intelligence in Florida — remember, the movie was produced during World War II — that the other contributors stepped in. Coming up, Professor Jacqueline Stewart is this week's Silent Sunday Night feature. In keeping with the Halloween season, she'll have a mix of horror and comedy starring Lon Chaney. The Monster is next on Turner Classic Movies.
Next on TCM, The Monster, then Stalker, and later, Hollywood Without Makeup. Maybe she's born with it on TCM tonight.